Yeah, we're very excited to talk to you today about our company, Power Nickel, and it's primarily going to be about our project called NISC. It's a high-grade nickel, copper, PGM, gold, silver. Isn't that a mouthful? Project in Quebec, and it really is an unparalleled ore body, and we've made some major discoveries soon. So it's about to get real exciting. We're not going to tell you anything we don't believe is true, but as always with any investment, you should do your due diligence. We're going to just, cut to the chase and give you the top 5 reasons why to invest in Power Nickel now. That's why you're here. You're here as investors. You're trying to review investment opportunities. So we're going to try and give you a compelling reason to put ours to the top of the heap. The most exciting thing that's happening for us right now is of course, with a name like Power Nickel, we're a nickel company. We have a wonderful high-grade nickel sulfide deposit, which we'll talk about in a second. But along the way to discovering more nickel, we found a very exciting copper gold PGM project, and it's impressive. So we've just announced our first exploration results, and they were impressive. And we've also told the market it's not even like a top 5 hole, but there's a lot more great holes to come. So here's what we announced. We basically had a discovery of almost 8 meters of 1 ounce PGMs. That's platinum group metals, about 1.5% copper and a little bit of gold. And then we followed it up with a follow-up hole, which is basically similarly, sort of scoped. You can see it's about 11% copper equivalent would be one way to look at it, with 13 grams of gold. So a very high-grade hole. That would be in the middle of your screen here, this section in the red, that little blob there. But you can see many, many other bigger holes. And this is our point, is we've hit a very, very rich ore body. And it's basically the holy grail for mining is to have I would say, a polymetallic discovery at surface or near surface in a safe jurisdiction with lots of infrastructure. And here we are. This is what we've got. This is our first hole was at 60 meters. We've drilled it as it hits it as early as 30 meters. And at this point, we're down to about 225 or so. And what we found in the ore body is that you basically have about a 100-meter width of the really rich materials, and then about a halo of 50 to 75 meters on either side that would be mineable. So, in the Abitibi or the Archean Shield, which is where we're located, it's not unusual. It's quite common, I would say, for the depth to sort of be an 8 to 10 times the width ratio. So we expect this to go considerably further, and that's really good news, obviously, for us. It's also, just look at this visuals here. So we've reported on these first 2 holes, and you can see the massive chalcopyrite MCP that we're showing here. So these are the holes that are to come. We're just waiting for the assays to come. We're expecting to get some in. It's scheduled to get in by the end of this week. So early next week, we would expect to have some hot news out and continue to ramp up this exploration story. And it's pretty interesting. We've got a very massive project, 46 square kilometers. And obviously, we spoke last year about our amazing nickel discoveries, which is continuing to grow, and we expect to have a significant nickel mine. And in fact, we'll talk more about that in a second. But I bring your attention to the right-hand side of the curve. The Lassonde curve is fairly well known in the junior mining investment cycles. And it basically explains, the various processes a junior miner goes through before it becomes a mine. And as an investor, what you might expect, when you're going through that process. So we're definitely going through the exploration stage, and we've moved just past discovery now into exploration, where we're stepped on. We've got 2 rigs. We're stepping on the gas. We'll probably add more, and so we're in this, very nice steep incline that should start to happen here. So that's as an investor, in my mind, that's the most exciting part of a junior mine, and we're giving you solid evidence today that we're about to enter that phase. Now, luckily for you, you're almost taking this risk risk-free. If you look at our stock chart, it's just starting to break out now, but we haven't been less than, I think, 18 cents or something in over a year through the worst of the nickel market correction. And now, we've obviously added this significant new discovery. So there's a lot more evolving. Now, what's interesting about our nickel project is that while it's still in exploration phase, it's such a good exploration play that we've attracted the interest of industry, and they've invested basic cost to invest over $5 million in doing a feasibility study on NISC, to become a nickel mine. So that's a very good sign. And what's interesting about working with CVMR, they're flashing over here to the slide on them. They're a top tier nickel and copper refiner and iron maker as well. They basically create powders, fine wire, anodes, really high value product. So their nickel powder, as an example, they're selling for $60,000 to $80,000 a ton. LME nickel right now is somewhere around 17.5, 17.7, something in that range. So you can see getting into the powder business is, and the refinery is really where the money is in nickel. And I mean, obviously, if you find a nickel mine, you can sell it to the refiner and you can still do okay. But the real money is in refining. And that's basically you've not been able to get there as a miner because you couldn't put that talent together as a junior. So it's really been fortunate because of the changing supply chain conditions and the desire for people to have North American nickel, which we'll talk about in a second, because of the Inflation Reduction Act in the U.S., means that new dynamics are possible. So, for us, it was the opportunity to work with CVMR, and what CVMR will deliver for us is right now on our 43-101 that we published in December, where we talked about 7.1 million tons, about 1.13% nickel EQ. That was with a 70% recovery rate of the nickel. Decent, but not exceptional. With CVMR, with their process, we'd expect to bring that up to 90%. So like a 30% improvement across the board. And then, you couple that improvement with the recoveries, together with them getting a lot more money for their finished products, 2 to 3 times LME prices would be our guess. Then you can see how that could really drive project economics and why that's important. So our relationship with CVMR continues to evolve. There's broader commercial opportunities, because of our cooperation, and we'll expect to be bringing you some reports from CVMR shortly, and some update on some future business development possibilities with them that potentially sees us building our refinery before we build our mine and get us into cash flow much quicker. So pretty exciting stuff. I mentioned in that discussion that North American nickel is different. Nickel is obviously a global market, and you've got in Southeast Asia, the Indonesian supply has really impacted that market, impacted high-cost nickel mines in Australia and New Caledonia, forcing them to close because the operations are just not competitive today with the Indonesian nickel supply. Now, the markets are quite bifurcated. So North American nickel is quite a bit different than Indonesian nickel. And you only have to look at this headline where Samsung invested in Canada Nickel as proof that they're prepared to pay up for clean nickel. And that's the reality is if you want to have a car that gets a full subsidy in North America, it needs to have substantial North American content. Well, you can't really get there if you don't have North American content nickel. So what's that mean? Either it's got to come from the mine in North America, or it has to be benefacted, i.e. refined in North America. So that's what prompted Samsung to invest in Canada Nickel, which is on the whole while it's a vast tonnage of nickel, it's a low grade, lower economic return mine. They could have definitely bought cheaper nickel elsewhere in the world, but they chose to make that investment because it does get them access potentially, if the mine gets commercialized, to the project in North America where they could get those parameters. So that investment was considerable, about 20 million US or so, almost in equity of the Canada Nickel, a right, if they want, to invest 110 million in a joint venture for 10% interest, and then an offtake agreement for about $1 billion worth of nickel a year. Now, I've been to South Korea twice in the last, 16 months, just there about 2 months ago. And we know that this represents only about 20% of Samsung's needs. And I've met with several other of the Korean battery manufacturers, and they have equally as large needs. So the demand for North American nickel is going to be significant, especially in the timeline when we would be projecting to come out in the market, which would be probably like 29. So that's a fact that you should recognize as an investor and differentiate your view of the world. Commodity markets are turning, and now's the time to get in. I was at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference and was interviewed, and they asked me, and I said, look, obviously commodity markets are bad, and I said the best time to invest in a market, in my view, is just when it's going from bad to less bad, and that's often the very quickest move, where you have companies double almost overnight, and then they'll go on a run. And the challenge I find, and I've mentioned this to people, is that if you're looking at companies like Power Nickel and other companies that you may have looked at in the commodity mining space, and you like the management team, and you like the ore bodies, and you like the location, and you haven't bought in because their stock charts looked a little weak, you may want to reconsider that, because what's going to happen now is the good ones are going to move, and they're going to move very quickly, and you're going to miss them. And I know myself, because I've been there as an investor, when you miss that first move, you miss the double, and you said, damn, I meant to get into that deal. I like those guys. And then, you watch the thing and it goes on a 10 bagger or 20 bagger run, and it's like you never got in and you missed the whole thing. So my encouragement to people was to move at least half your stack in on these mining deals now. And whether you pick individual companies like Power Nickel, or you pick a good mining fund, Palace Capital, BT Global, CI, Mackenzie, there's a number of great funds out there. I'm sure there's some in whatever country that you're in that also do a great job. And those will also give you the opportunity for this kick. Because when you look at this chart, just of the broader sort of commodity index to S&P ratio, you can see we're trading at a 50-year low. And you can see how savage the returns go. It's going to go to 3 to 4 for sure. That'll be the average return. But in the peak, it'll run up to 7, 8. So that's the entire index. So if you're picking out good companies that good due diligence should bring you to, 10, 20, 50, 100 backers are going to be possible all day long in this space. It will be transformational. Final point to make. We're in the best jurisdiction in the world to explore. We're in Quebec, Canada. Why is that so great? Well, you only have to look at Panama and First Quantum and what happened down there to understand how dicey it can be in some of these markets. So you really want to be very selective of your mining investments to make sure you're in a safe jurisdiction. So when you actually do have a home run, you get paid for it. So I believe Canada is certainly a safe jurisdiction, and within Canada, Quebec is certainly fantastic. There's 3 key reasons why Quebec is really fantastic right now. One is infrastructure. So in our case, we're located off of Route North, a major highway running north through Quebec. So you can literally drive off a 3-lane road right to our site. Right across the road from us is a Hydro-Quebec substation. So obviously you got road and power right there. We're about 8 kilometers outside the town of Nanaska, which has got a regional airport. It's also the home of the Cree government. So our First Nations partner, which is probably the most business-oriented First Nations group in the country, very pro-mining. There's 4 mining projects already greenlit in that area. They're being very supportive to mining because they recognize it can help to transform and employ the community in a very high-level way, yet still with proper context and preserving and protecting their way of life and their environment. And then the final reason why Quebec is such an amazing spot to work is that the Quebec government has and the Canadian government have put together some amazing fiscal incentives. So if you look at our financings over the last several months, you'll see that we've been able to finance at 2 and 3 times our share price at times because of using flow-through, charity flow-through buybacks, which gets investors. It could be in Germany, it could be in Switzerland, it could be the United States, it could be anywhere, it could be outside Quebec. You can still get in that deal. What happens is we've got relationships with financial providers in Quebec that put up the 2 or 3 times money, and then you buy it for half price. So the project gets the 2x or 3x price. And so we've got that money, so a lot less dilution for existing shareholders, and we can put it in the ground and make progress. Yet you as the investor get in at half that price. So you get twice the money working for you. That's fantastic on exploration. Nothing like it in the world. And then, of course, it also exists for development. So if our project costs 350, 400 million, which would be a likely number, literally half that's coming from our government. So that really, if you've got a good feasibility study together, that pretty much enables you to finance out of these projects. So you need very little equity to ultimately build it. So it's really sensational opportunity to work in Quebec and Canada. You always want to get in, I think, into an investment that's relatively undervalued compared to its peers. And this is a chart, I updated it last night, just talks about the nickel comparables, where we're basically trading at about, on average, about 15 cents on the dollar relative to our peers. and arguably, we're every bit as good in every way and in the best jurisdiction. And then on top of this, we've just dropped this blockbuster copper gold PGM discovery. We call it the Lion right now. And so if this is super cheap, and now we just got this catalyst, that the gods gave us. Thank you, God. It's just unbelievable. So I think this is an amazing chart to reflect upon as an entry point for Power Nickel. The other points I would make, just in things that we're doing that help differentiate us, is we're using technology in ways that are really important. We use this thing called ambient noise tomography. It was invented and popularized by a company called Fleet Space Technologies. They're Australia's fastest growing company now. And what it is it's basically super sensitive seismic that sends down sound waves into the earth, comes back as a file, and they compare that data with your other known scientific data, like your seismic, your drilling data, downhole EM, etc., geophysics, all those tools, and it helps you really to understand in a very clear way. I would say your interfaces between various rock types, because it measures the velocity of the rock, and it helps you to identify faults. So when you make, what I say to people is that, if geophysics gives you 30 targets and Mother Earth has got 2 prizes hidden down there, you got to ultimately at some point in the drilling process drill these 30 targets to de-risk to find those 2 targets. Now maybe you get lucky and hit your first one, or maybe it's on the 29th. That's the challenge in mining. What happens with ambient noise is you drop that 30 down to 10. So you've eliminated 20 bad targets. You still got to find that 2, but you've reduced your costs in a big way, and it sped up your pace of exploration. That's been our experience, and we've been really pleased with it. We're obviously going to have, we think, the world's first carbon neutral nickel mine. How do we get there? Well, luckily, it's just, to the most part, the benefit of being in Quebec. We're across the street from Hydro-Quebec, so obviously clean green power will power the mine. It's an ultramafic deposit, so it naturally sequesters CO2. We're going to be able to build in a recycling facility into it as part of our build. So we'll be able to take things from cradle to grave and back again. And, we really feel that, this is going to be reflected in the pricing we're going to get for our products, and or the speed with which we'll be able to get really favorable offtake agreements done. So it's going to be beneficial. Wood Mackenzie and forecasters like that in the nickel space believe it'll be adding, $1 to $2 per pound for nickel. That's the number that the industry is using. We'll see how that ultimately plays out, but for sure, it's definitely going to get you much better contracts, much quicker, at better terms. Got an experienced team here. It's very lean. We don't have a cast of thousands. We basically, Peter is our chairman. He's an ex-lawyer. Greg's an ex-investment banker. Mena runs our Chile operations, which we'll talk about in a second. Ken runs the Canadian exploration. And basically in Canada, we operate, we have Ken running our exploration. He came out of West Red Lake or Red Lake and the consulting business. And then for us, and we use a company called GeoVector, and they are a very accomplished group, done a ton of great exploration work in the country over, like a 40, 50-year career. And so we're able to tie into that expertise without owning it. And it's really cost effective in Canada these days to do that because of the tax system. So we've been lucky to have these guys. Les Mallard's our last board member, and the board owns about 4% of the company. So it's a significant investment interest, which is great. And they've been with me since the last 10 years. We're spinning off our Chile operations and our BC operations. They're a copper gold exploration group, which obviously at that time when we were going through this didn't fit in with the nickel focused company that we were, but it's in a geographically different location, and so we're planning to do that. That's one of the ways we're intending to capture the shorts that are in our company. As Julian mentioned at the outset, it's not uncommon for Canadian mining companies to have a significant problem with short sellers. We filed a complaint with FINRA and the SEC and CIRO in Canada about that. We've documented it, and one of the tactics we'll be using is this. We used to trade at around the current levels based upon these assets, so they're significant. They're going to be valuable for our shareholders, but at this point, nobody's given us any value for them. It's all just on the NIST project. So by spinning it out, we'll create value for our shareholders, but we'll also create a bit of a trap for the shorts because this is going initially into a private company, and they will not be able to replicate that with their fake moves. So this will be interesting test. We also have a royalty that we're in the process of selling. This will add some cash value to the project. Probably get somewhere, I don't know, $3 to $7 million US for this straight injection into Treasury. We're hoping to get it done in H1. That's the story. So it's a really interesting time to be looking at power nickel. We've made this amazing new discovery, which happens to obviously to be in the copper gold PGM world, which is extremely hot right now. And it's on top of a base of an amazing nickel deposit that we're advancing with really great exploration results, and obviously working it with CVMAR to move it towards a mine status as quickly as possible. So it's a tremendous time to be looking at commodities in general, and especially I would say commodities located in great countries like Canada and Quebec. So happy to answer any questions you may have, and we'll take it from there.
Well, thank you very much for the great presentation, Terence. I don't know if you had one coffee too many this morning, but you were going fast, Terence. So we're gonna have to bring you back a bit to a few slides.
Yeah.
So first off, let's just review that while questions from the attendees are coming in. Right now, how many assets has Power Nickel, and then what's happening with all of the assets? If my understanding is correct, you've got one side that is going into spin-off, one side that is nickel advance, and then you've got the new gold project. Is that right?
Yeah. So yeah, we basically, you hit it right on the head. Our primary focus is NISC, which is this one project, 46 square kilometers. This is the layout of the project inside Quebec, and it basically it happens to contain, as it looks at this point, a nickel ore body, a massive sulfide nickel ore body. And then along the way, for looking to expand that ore body, we had stepped out 5.5 kilometers from our core discovery to the northeast end, and that ore body is turned into this, the copper, PGM gold discovery that is just happening in front of our eyes as we spoke. We dropped the flow-up assay hole on Monday. We expect to have new holes out next week. And this is the rock we're getting. So super, from an exploration perspective, this is as exciting as it gets, really. This is a very high grade, near surface, great jurisdiction. So that's that. And then of course we do have other assets in the company in Chile and in BC that were used to trade at these levels, the overall company, but obviously it's not part of the NIST story. So we thought it's best to spin those out in a separate entity. And that's what we're doing.
Absolutely, that makes total sense. Regarding the discovery, can you maybe walk us a bit through the steps into making such a discovery? Obviously, it's always location. But what were you expecting to find there first when your eyes and why your eyes got attracted into this particular?
So this is just all the acclaim to the geological team. Because obviously this is not my expertise. I rely on these very talented professionals to identify these stories. So what happened is the massive sulfides, the nickel is associated with a ultramafic rock. So when we were scouting the property and doing our work on the property, you do a lot of mapping and you identify rock types, etc. at the surface. So we noted that there was a ultramafic expression about 5.5 kilometers away at surface. And so last April, about a year ago, we thought we're coming to the end of our program because you have a spring break where it's soft and mushy and you can't drill. So it's about a 1 month period where we can't drill. We just shut our drills down yesterday. We'll be off for a month and then back in June. And so we drilled a hole there and just drilled a short one just to test it, 100 meters. And at 60 meters, we hit this massive PGM discovery. So that was super exciting, but you can't obviously we were excited, but one hole is one hole. You gotta have follow-up. You gotta get at least 3 points of contact to get any volume. And then of course you need many holes. So we've drilled on this particular project, stepping back to this diagram, 15 holes, okay? 14 of the 15 hit. Okay, so that's an exceptional discovery rate. So we've got a pretty good idea. This is between two faults, and what happened, geologically speaking, or so we believe, is that this plate shifted, created a fissure, and at the time of that shift, whatever tectonic event made that shift happen, it allowed these fluids that happened to be present, which carried the copper, the gold, the PGMs, and the silver, and the nickel, and it poured in here. So that's fantastic. Now, the good news about that is that these events tend to be quite sizable, so it's highly unlikely that just one, pipe was created. We had Rio Tinto on, the other day, that we had the head of exploration of Rio Tinto in, and we were chatting about the project. We were actually chatting about the nickel project, and they said, "Look, this PGM hit's really exciting for you." She said, "Look, in these nickel PGM plays, what happens is you get something cooking in the basement, and you get these fireballs, the PGMs shot up top, and it comes down from the top." And she said, if you find one of them, you're going to find more of them. It's not like they don't come in onesies. So that's exciting for us. So it's like we've got this. I mean, this little shoot would be enough to be in my view. We obviously have to prove that up, but that would be so rich, and there's enough ore there. That would just be a mine because it's so lucrative. But it's highly
And
likely.
on that, Terence, exactly. That's the
Yeah.
point where I wanted to go with you. How rich? There's a lot of numbers there. Obviously, if you were a savvy investor in commodity, you see you can translate those. How
Yeah.
high it is to have 2.79 gram per ton gold on top 5.30. Can you walk us a bit of
Yeah,
what's
yeah. So,
economical
so,
per
so,
commodity?
so yeah. So, one of the points we made in our press release on this was we said if you found 1 gram of gold and had 1 million ounces of it, that'd be considered a good deposit. Okay, that's $75 rock. Okay, this rock is between $1,000 and $2,000 a ton, so 15 to 20, 25 times more. So obviously that's all margin, which enhances returns and payback, right? So when you're looking at any investment, it's all about, hey, I put my money in, how quickly do I get my money out? And then what's the life? So the NPV on a project like this would be fantastic. So NPVs drive investment, and obviously we need to flush it out, get more assays out, do the 43-1, do all that process. But you don't drill 15 holes and you get 14 hits, and it's like, that's exciting stuff.
Absolutely. And then one thing that you said, obviously, is that economics could be fantastic. There's more result to become metallurgical and so on. And then to be able to see an economic value into the project, no doubt about that. But the results are absolutely mind blowing for sure, and making it a very, very,
And it's
very discovery. I
and it's
wouldn't.
it
Yeah, go ahead.
it's interesting. Abitibi Metals has had a really great discovery in Quebec. On the copper side of things. I don't know if you know that name. It's another good one. I like those guys. Great management team. And they went from, I don't know, 8 cents to 70 cents like in just a few months. And I think our results will stack up with that discovery. To give you an idea of what this discovery is worth, it's sort of separate from our nickel. It's like that's what a hot new copper discovery is, and I believe ours is actually going to be richer, but we'll see. But I mean, that's a great one, and they've done very well, and I think that's another really great play.
Well, the one thing I do know is that it's going to be a nice battle for maybe the discovery of the year. We'll see exactly at the next.
Yeah.
We'll see exactly next year where they
Yeah.
are. Terence, it's 1:30 here in Vienna, 7:30 in Montreal. We want to thank you very much for your time. Interesting presentation, obviously, massive development in power nickel, and again, I invite everyone to keep on looking about power nickel, what you guys are doing, and also hop on the Save Canadian Mining .com, and then have a look of what's happening there, the implication of power nickel, and how Terence is spearheading all of that. So thank you very much, Terence, for your time, and
Thanks to you.
hopefully we'll see you next time.
Cheers, man. Take care. Bye.